Assalamu alaikum students. Today is our fifth lecture, that is unit number 3, Anansi and 5, on page number 26. So first I will explain a short summary of this lesson, then we will start reading, and also you will underline difficult words that you have to learn on. So Anansi and 5 is a story of a creature who was mixture of both the spider and a man, as you can see in the picture also how he looks. He was a poor creature who had nothing. No, means he was living a difficult life, that he didn't have a single money to buy something for his family. All the day he used to roam around the village. So one day when he was passing by his neighbors, he heard something that pleased him. Means his neighbor was an old witch who was very furious, means an angry kind of a witch, because she didn't like people to call her name. She hated her name, because most ever when people called her name, they used to laugh on it, as it was 5. So he hid himself and was looking what the witch is doing. So the witch was cooking, was spelling a magic on its cooking pot, and was murmuring the spell that she spelled that whoever would say 5 would disappear forever. So by seeing this, Anansi got an idea, a curious idea, to earn money. He thought he will use this trick and will fool people, and as they disappear, so he would get whatever they have and would eat. So he went near the river bank and was waiting for the people who would return from market and would fool them. He started his work. He placed 5 mouths on earth near the path, so whoever will come would count and would disappear. So he would be successful in his plan. Like that, many creatures came, like Mrs. Rabbit was there, Mr. Duck, who came and tried to help him, and despite disappeared, and he took their foods and started eating. He became so selfish that even he forgot his family also. Like that, after a while, Miss Frog also came, but she didn't help him and passed away. And at last, other creature was Mrs. Shraw, who was a clever lady. She knew that Anansi was thinking something very clever, so she didn't count. Most of the 3 times she counted, but still 4. So at that moment, Anansi became furious at her and shouted that count. I have told you to count till 5. And by saying 5 himself, he disappeared. So the result of the story means the moral was that we should not think bad for others. Whenever we think something bad for others, same would happen to us. Like with Anansi, he was thinking bad for other creatures. He became so selfish that at the last, the result was he himself disappeared. So now we'll start reading. Once upon a time long ago, there lived a creature named Anansi. Sometimes Anansi was a spider, sometimes he was a man, and sometimes he was a strange mixture of the two. Anansi was a trickster, underlined trickster, and he was having a difficult time. He had no money to buy food for his family. As he walked around the village early one morning, he had a growl on his face and a growl in his stomach. Passing by a neighbor's house, Anansi heard something that pleased him. The neighbor was an old witch. She was an angry and unpleasant witch who became furious, underlined furious, whenever anyone said her name. She hated her name. Although her life people had laughed or looked surprised when they heard what her name was. Can you guess what her name was? It was 5. Anansi peeked through a gap in the witch's fence. She was stirring her big cooking pot and muttering and mumbling a spell. The smoke and spark were blue and green, so Anansi knew she was cooking up some black magic. Suddenly, she snatched up her stuff and started to pound it on the ground as she walked around the pot. Anansi listened carefully to what she said. I curse anyone who says the word 5 to disappear forever. Anansi rubbed his hands together and jumped around on his 8 hairy legs. Hey, this could make me some money or get some food on the table for my family. He smiled wildly and his sharp teeth sparkled. Anansi rushed to the path that ran along the underlying river bank, between the village and the marketplace. Soon everyone who was going to the market would walk past. They would be on their way to buy the delicious yams, beets, pulses, and grains that would be piled high in the market. Anansi set to work and piled up 5 mounds of earth near the path. They looked just like he had planted 5 yams. Then he sat down and waited. First in to come by was little Mrs. Rabbit. She carried a basket full of sweet potatoes pieces and walked slowly because it was heavy. Anansi stepped forward and smiled. That looks like a big weight. Please take rest a while and help me. I don't know how to count, so I cannot tell how many yams I have planted. Mrs. Rabbit was kind, so she stopped. She put her basket and hopped along the roll, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In a flash and a bag, Mrs. Rabbit disappeared. Underline disappeared. Anansi gulped down the whole basket of sweet potatoes in a second. He licked his lips and sat down again to wait. Not long after he heard little footsteps on the path and looked up. It was Mr. Duck. He walked along with his chest held high, and his feet made a slip-slop sound on the path. He had a bag with his lunch in it by his side. Mr. Duck stopped when he saw Anansi and asked how he was. Anansi put on a glim expression, underline expression. Mr. Duck, I have no idea how to count my yum plants. Can you help me, please? Mr. Duck popped his head and puffed out his chest even further. Well, Anansi, he said, it is quite simple. Start with 1, then it's 2, 3, 4, and 5. Mr. Duck disappeared instantly. Anansi ate up his lunch. Now I know you will be wondering about Anansi's family. Did he think about them? Did he save any food for them? No, he didn't. He ate everything without without a thought about any of them. Next to come along on her way to the market to buy some tasty treat was Miss Frog. She did not stop when Anansi called after her. Hey, please help me count my plants. She laughed. No way. Count them by yourself, she called over her shoulder as she popped away. It did not bother Anansi too much because he knew there would be plenty more chance for him to try his trick out. He imagined what delicious food he would find. He did not imagine taking any to his young hungry children. He was going to eat as much as he could fit in his stomach and then come back and try the trick again on another day. A curing sound pulled Anansi out of his daydream. It was Mrs. Shrow. On a tiny bag she had a huge load of fleshy made pies that she was popping to sell. The load was 3 times her size and her face was red from the furt she was making. Oh, Lady Shiro, how nice to see you. Sit a while and rest. I need your help to count my plants and you can share your wisdom, underline wisdom, with me. Anansi grinned and showed all his sharp teeth. He was trying hard to be charming because he really wanted to eat all the pies. Mrs. Shiro was not a fool. She could see Anansi's eyes bristle as he looked at the pies. Well, Anansi, you are kind. I am tired. She put down her foot. How can I help you? I can't count, he lied. Can you count my yum modes for me? Mrs. Shiro smiled. She walked to the nearest moat and stood on it. She pointed to the moat that was furthest away from her. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one, she said clearly. Anansi frowned. Do it again. Say all the numbers, he said. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one that I am sitting on. Mrs. Shiro spoke slowly and clearly. A flash of anger passed over Anansi's face. Come on, say them properly. He was finding it difficult to keep a smile on his face. Again, Mrs. Shiro smiled sweetly and counted slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one here. She pointed to the moat beneath her feet. Underline beneath. Irg said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, shouted Anansi. Instantly, in a big blast of spark, he disappeared. Mrs. Shiro picked up her load and set off to the market. She would sell these pies and buy mouth-watering delicious for her family. So this is your lesson. I hope you have understood the lesson. and I've got idea that we should not fool or do bad with others. As we do with others, same road written for us. So you have to read the lesson and difficult words that you have underlined. That's all for today's lecture. Thank you.